Now for Focus, and for the last few months in a small park here in Paris has been the closest thing to a home for a group of Moroccan youths who have legally entered the European Union. Most are teenagers, but some are as young as 10 years old. Living rough on the streets, they smoke, drink alcohol and seemingly commit petty crimes. Their presence in the neighbourhood is a growing source of conflicting emotions among the residents. Anger, pity, often a mix of both. This report by Jean Barrère, Noureddin Beziou and Julia Seeger.
The Alain Bachung Park in the 18th district of Paris. It's become a hangout for young Moroccans. Homeless kids left on their own who already drink alcohol and take drugs. Most of them are aged 13 to 16. About 50 of them have been living in this park day and night for the last couple of months.
I was really shocked by what I saw. I just dropped my child at school. It was 9 a.m. and there were these children smoking cigarettes. And you know, I'm from this neighborhood. I've seen my share of wild things, but it was the first time I saw children hanging out like that in the streets at 9 in the morning.
They steal from people sitting in cafes. They break into ground floor apartments to spend the night inside or into buildings that are being renovated.
It's a group of youngsters who loiter around the neighborhood. They hang out in that park over there. They deal stuff. I find this a bit sad because this is happening in France.
Several social workers are trying to help them, like Fatiha Kitab and her colleagues. They walk the streets handing out food to those in need. Today she's come with clothes for the street children.
Today I'm bringing them clean t-shirts and underwear because they all wear the same clothes. This raises many concerns in terms of hygiene.
Her job doesn't stop here. When speaking with one of the kids, she notices he's injured. We decide to follow them. The young man accepts to be filmed as long as his face doesn't appear on camera.
Alors, on va commencer par la jambe.
Ça va? ما تتحركش؟ déjà?
Ça va, ça fait pas mal.
وهذه كيفاش بليسيت هذه؟ حكي لنا كيفاش طاحت.
طاحت.
كيفاش؟
الصرف.
كيفاش؟ وين كنت في الدار؟ كيفاش حكي لنا؟ ومن بعد؟
دخل علينا البول.
ومن بعد؟
Ahmed tells us his story. He came in a truck from Casablanca. And like most of his friends, he's originally from the Rif region.
علاش خرجت من المغرب؟ يعني علاش؟
المغرب ما فيه والو.
كيف؟
المغرب ما فيه والو. السوق هذا كامل مش مسلح.
It's difficult to know the real reasons that push them to flee their country. Some are orphans, others ran away from their homes. Most of them were already homeless back in Morocco.
Ils sont en demande. Nous, ils nous demandent tous les jours alors.
Every day they keep asking us, do you have a solution for me? Because the situation they're in right now, in the short term, is very worrying at every level. They're not eating enough, their hygiene is poor, they don't have access to emergency accommodation at night, and they're faced with all the dangers of sleeping outside in a neighborhood like this one.
When it's too cold outside, they come hang out in the district's laundry rooms. While filming undercover, some kids open up.
كنعسوا مع ديك 6 الصباح ما عندناش فين نعسوا برودة وفينا خصنا ناكلوا ما عندناش فين ندوشوا نعمل لك فايدة غلوصة.
This 14-year-old kid from Fez also finally accepts to answer our questions.
خصنا نكونوا في شي دار فيها بنادم شي خدمه هيدا واخا صغار يمشي يخدموا هيدا نبوشكاروا على راسنا 4 شهور كون نهار في الزنقه وكنت بحال الحلو شوف دابا العروق اخاي غا العروق اخاي غا العطومه باقي فيها بعد الروح.
He says they hang out as a group to protect themselves from adults who seek to exploit them.
يجي تادي واحد يتعاونوا لك 20 اخاي.
Brawls happen often in the streets. This teen, for instance, was stabbed in the neck and in his hand. These kids face many risks in the streets, yet local authorities aren't doing much to help them. During our 3-day shoot in the district, we met very few social workers.
We do have various measures in place, and for us, talking about them is not a problem. But we do not wish to stage what we do, to put on a performance, if you will, because being discreet is very important with this type of social work. If our city hall can be blamed for something, it's maybe because we haven't reacted quickly enough when the problem was arising. But ever since then, we've been mustering a lot of resources.
A building could soon open next to the park to provide these young Moroccan homeless kids with food and clothes, but also guidance. The hope is they'll one day get out of the street.
Joining me now from Brussels is Frederica Toscano from the Missing Children Europe organisation. Frederica, thanks for being with us. How and why did these Moroccan children and teenagers end up in Paris, say, as opposed to Spain, which of course is physically that much closer to Morocco?
Thank you very much for having me here. Well, it's choice of children. Indeed, they move when they see that the place where they are does not offer them possibilities to have a better future. For example, shelter, for example, access to education, possibility to work in some cases, because we have to be honest, many of them look for a way to earn money and have a better life for themselves and the family back. So they move from country to country looking for better opportunities, and many of them move to, for example, France or Germany, where actually they have been told that there is a better future for them, which is often, unfortunately, not the reality.
What dangers do these young people face?
There are many dangers, and some of them were also mentioned in the future. First of all, we have to say that there are direct dangers to their health, not only the physical health, but their mental health as well. Many of them in this situation, homeless and obliged to sleep outside in the cold and exposed to violence, etc., often suffer of post-traumatic stress disorder, for example. Many of them are depressed. Often we hear more and more cases of suicide among very, very young migrant children. Then there are other kind of dangers, for example, the danger of falling into exploitation, because when you're in a situation like the one we've seen in the video, and you're promised shelter and better future, often you believe people that you shouldn't believe, and many international criminal organizations unfortunately exploit their vulnerability and convince them to go with them, when actually in the end what they find is prostitution or labor exploitation.
One thing that came through in that report is the fact that French authorities have been very slow, if at all, to respond to their needs. What should authorities be doing in order to protect these young people?
It's not only French authorities, unfortunately, it's a widespread phenomenon. I would say everywhere in Europe, authorities have been quite slow in recognizing that there is an increasingly large number of children that need help immediately, need shelter and integration programs. What can be done, for example, the first thing that should be done is to create a strong and efficient guardianship system, which is required by European law. Every unaccompanied child in Europe needs to be accompanied by a guardian that represents their interests, but also a very important person that advises them and explains them what are the possibilities in the country where they are, and suggests them the strategy to be better integrated and follow the path that authorities often propose to children. So a strong guardianship system is very important. But here we're talking about, for example, shelter. We see that these children don't have access to places where they can sleep during the day and at night, and that's probably something that is so basic, but still the fact of not looking into the situation and the numbers properly and not creating a realistic plan and realistic amount of resources to be deployed for this is probably a step that needs to be done first and foremost.
You mentioned there that this is a problem not only being experienced here in France, but right across Europe, and in fact there's been an increase. Do you have any idea in terms of percentage or statistics as to what numbers there are?
It's very difficult because many of these children are not registered or identified. Countries don't have, unfortunately, very well-working database that allow us to have a clear picture on how many unaccompanied children are present, how many are homeless, how many have run away from shelters. So it's very difficult to have a picture. That we rely on information from organizations that are working in the streets and in the field, and what we hear is that homelessness is a very, very big problem among unaccompanied migrant children coming from third countries.
Frederica Toscano, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.